Sports Locker Sunday. I'm Anthony Calhoun alongside, of course, our race analyst over there, Tice Carlson. And yes, Graham Rahal, our driver analyst for the month of May, back in the house tonight with us. Great seeing you as always. GR, been with you all day today, Tice. So
it's been a long day.
Long day with this guy.
Long day.
But hey, man, here we go. The race is next Sunday. Congratulations. You're part of the field of 33. We got a lot to get to tonight, folks, here on Sports Locker. So sit back and relax. But let's start first things first, though. I know you got to be happy to know that you're part of the field, right?
Yeah, I think it was a really good, yesterday was a good day just to get in it and get it over with. Quite frankly, it was a tricky one. Our first run, we went out there, it wasn't nearly as good as we had expected. We got put in kind of a strange bind in the sense that, we had a really bad qualifying draw. So we qualified 29th out of the 36. That's a difficult place. You qualify in the afternoon there, 1:45 or whatever it was. It's the hottest part of the day since the guys went out in the morning. I think the track temp had gone up like almost 25 degrees since the first group of drivers. That's a lot of grip that you're just throwing out the window. But our guys did a great job. I think they stayed calm in the scenario. We waited it out, and ultimately we got super lucky that we made the right call at the right time. We got in the fast lane. We threw away our time, which everybody thought we were absolutely nuts. But we were the last cars to qualify, the last car of the day to qualify, put ourselves 11 spots higher than we were, and ultimately a good place to start.
Yeah, so you're going to start 17th. We're going to talk more about Graham getting ready for the 500 coming up a little bit later here on Sports Locker. But let's just talk about today, though, man, because I think Tyson and I mentioned how this was a day for these drivers. Of course, 3 open spots, only for 6 drivers to try to get 3 spots there. You had that, and of course, you had the run for the pole. But as a driver, I mean, this is what it's all about. This is pressure-packed performance. You had to be sharp out there, right?
Yeah, but even yesterday, this is, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're running for, in my case, starting 17th. If you qualified, 10th early on and you're just sitting on your lap all day, you are nervous the entire time. Yesterday was intensity at its highest all day long. And then today was drama. Simple as that. Today was drama. I'm glad that we were not a part of it, but today is just, you get one shot. Are you good enough?
Yeah.
Are you not? And, as a driver, too, that's tough. Because, like my good friend Max Chilton, he did all he can do. The car simply had no speed. And, you're in that position. Dario Franchitti and I were talking about earlier today. Sometimes you go out there and you hang it all on the line and you're fast. Fine. Sometimes you go out there, you hang it all on the line, and there is just the time that comes up on the dash is slow. And that is the worst feeling you can ever have.
All right.
So with your second qualifying run yesterday, obviously you had to throw that time away. We talked about starting in the back of the field and how terrible of a lap that is. How much more important is it to those 5 or 6 spots that you start further up to you throughout the race?
Well, had I not messed up the last lap, we were looking to start in 12th or 13th, which is really good. But in the end, we start 17th. What is good about being 17th? Yes, it's less cars to have to worry about. What is also good about starting 17th is to my left will be Mr. Tony Kanaan, and to my right will be Scott Dixon. So I've got a really strong row, which is key. Early in this race, you want to go out there, you want to have a good first lap, good few, first laps, and you don't want anybody around you that's going to drive, a little bit too aggressively and put yourself at risk. And I think I've got a great row to go at it with.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I saw, obviously, the field of 33 being set. We're going to talk about Pagenaud here tonight. He's on the pole for this year's Indy 500. And here's a guy, folks, who, granted, you knew Team Penske, they would be right there as one of the teams to possibly come away with the pole. But Tyson and I were even talking about him just a few days ago, even last week after you won the IndyCar Grand Prix, that he was a driver who was under a lot of pressure to perform. Graham, give me your take on Simon and see him come away with this pole here.
Well, in this case, and I give Simon a lot of credit, he and his engineer, Ben Bretzman, I know well, did an amazing job. But you got to give a lot of credit to the guys building that car too, because the speed, in that sense, versus his teammates, Newgarden had the slowest car. Power was not that much further ahead of Newgarden, and then obviously Simon's car was just the quickest. And then so you have a quick car, but then how do you make it consistent? That's where Simon, that's where Ben Bretzman, the engineer, come in. And his 4 laps were way more consistent than anybody else, and that's ultimately what earned him the pole. So, great job by him. You know, I think he's going to have a strong race car too. And obviously there's a lot of Penske's up there. There's the Carpenter cars up there.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of guys that are going to have to go battle it out.
All right, let's hear from the pole winner tonight.
I really want to thank Team Penske, and you know, it's a testament of speed. Here, this is the tempo of speed.
Right.
So when you get a pole position, it just shows how strong this team is. Our goal is to win races and win championship, win pole position. We're not here to be second or third. So obviously we lose more than we win because that's the nature of racing. So when it happens, I've learned that you should really, really enjoy it, and I do. It's you know, this is what I wake up for every morning. This is what I think about when I go to bed every night. So my life has been about this and these kind of moments.
Life is a couple of snapshots at the end of the day. Will you feel like this was one of them, just what we saw an hour ago?
For sure, one of my sweetest days so far, you know, but there's more to accomplish. So let's keep our head on our shoulders and go forward and get the job done when we'll be able to.
All right, so there you have it right there. Simon Pagenaud is on the pole for this year's Indy 500. Of course, we're hanging out here with Graham Rahal here on Sports Locker Sunday. Let's take a look at the front row and the first three rows, if you will, here tonight on Sports Locker Sunday. Of course, we talked about Pagenaud. He'll start on the inside of row one. Ed Carpenter, as Graham mentioned, he knew that their team would be in the running as well. He'll be in the middle of row one. You got Spencer Pigot there. It's going to be on the outside of row number one. Then meanwhile, row number two, Ed Jones, Colton Herta there, and then Will Power, of course, the defending champion. And then the row three, you got Bourdais, Newgarden, and then Alexander Rossi, a former winner as well, on the outside of row number three. Okay.
Well, to butt in, what's interesting about this is that if you look at that last row, you know, their qualifying time is basically identical to mine. So the speeds that we saw today in that Fast 9, I was surprised. I was surprised because the temperature was cooler, the track was way cooler. I thought we were going to see more than that. And I think a lot of guys that went out there today went, you know, I mean, Will went 1.5 miles slower than he did yesterday, which is kind of a little bit strange. But the other thing to note, from first to last is 2.5 mile per hour average speed. That, I think, has to be the closest field in Indy 500 history.
I think you're right.
There is no margin.
Yeah.
A 227 went home today. That's crazy to really think about.
But if you look at it, if he would have ran that yesterday, he would have been in the field. He was actually, I think, faster than guys in like the 9th row with that 227.2 or whatever. So that has to make him feel, you know, not real happy about what his performance yesterday.
But what I think was surprising to learn today is that last night, the rumors going around are they bought a setup and bought shocks and springs and everything from Andretti. So that really was an Andretti setup today. So why was that, you know, not, it was more consistent than he had yesterday, but it wasn't quick enough. Let's put aside the fact that you can go buy a setup from somebody, which I think is completely wrong. But I still think that team should have been capable of doing that yesterday. Andy Brown, the engineer on Alonso's car, I have tremendous respect for Andy Brown. Awesome guy. This is really I think is going to shake up the racing world worldwide. The Juncos Racing,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
15 full-time employees went out and beat McLaren, who's got 1,500.
Right.
Completely different deal.
Guys, we're going to get to that in a moment. Let's get to James Hinchcliffe, too, because here's a guy who was trying to battle for those 3 spots available today between 6 drivers. And Graham, we know the story about James, of course, did not make the field last year. You talked about the pressure. Give me your thoughts on what he was able to do here today and squeeze his way into the field.
Well, he's a great friend of mine, and with all he's been through, you know, we talk about the highs and the lows at Indy. This man has seen the highs being on pole, and he has absolutely seen the lows the last couple of years, as well as his injury, three or 4 years ago now. But, you know, it felt good to see Hinch get in there, be safe, be able to go racing. And if nothing else, I can guarantee you that man's going to be up front at some point throughout the race. I would be shocked if he's not in it at the end.
Okay, no doubt he's relieved to be in the field.
That's Indy, man. It's a tricky thing to do. I mean, even a team as experienced and prepared as ours, we found ourselves in the same situation. You just don't know what's going to happen here, and that's the mystique behind it. That's what makes it awesome. That's what makes it terrible at the same time from our seat. But we're thrilled about that, and now we're just focused on next Sunday. I went so many years of my career here at the 500 without bumping, and was one of the guys who was like, man, it was so cool, and they used to have bumping.
Easy.
Yeah, and I was one of those guys that prayed for it to come back. And 2 years running, man, we were on the short end of the stick there.
We're happy there for James Hinchcliffe. Okay, so this is the big story of the day, though. We talked about this just moments ago. The two-time F1 champion, world champion, Fernando Alonso here, needing to try to steal one of those 3 spots on that last row. We're here just qualifying run here, Graham, and obviously he does not have enough to get into the field of 33. How big of a deal is this? Put this in perspective.
Well, I mean, to me, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal because, first of all, I think that it really shows that, motorsports in this country is to be respected. I think that it shows that the teams in our form of motorsport are to be respected. I think it's easy. McLaren is one of the best Formula One teams out there. And I think, a lot of people from over there look over here and say, yeah, we can go do that. That's no big deal. But remember, there are a lot of tricks of the trade, in racing on ovals and racing here at Indianapolis. And ultimately, this is David beats Goliath in the biggest sense. I mean, Juncos Racing, number one, repaired a car on Friday. I know Alonso did earlier in the week, but Juncos they don't have a sponsor for the race. Juncos has no real money behind them. And for them to go out and put that together, I mean, that's a big time. I mean, the crowd went nuts because it's a huge deal. And I think, as Hinch said, bumping truly is back at Indy. The intensity is back at Indy. I mean, 3 guys went home today. It's a pretty big deal.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so this morning we had Kyle Kaiser on, and just the appreciation that he showed for his guys and the time that they put into it. I think that really makes those guys work a little harder for him. They lost both of their primary sponsors the week before going in. Those guys stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning building that new car for him, and he showed that appreciation, and they felt that, and they worked hard for it.
No, they did a great job.
Let's hear from Alonso tonight.
I tried, I tried my best every attempt. I drove with a loose car and didn't lift off. I drove with an understeer car, I didn't lift off. I drove with a rear puncher. I only lift off in the last lap because I could not make the corner. But and today we went out with an experiment that we did overnight. We changed a little bit the car. We didn't do the job. We were not quick enough. Simple.
Well, there's a lot of speculation. I think you brought this up earlier about, hey, can he buy his way in to be in this race? And he made it clear tonight that, hey, you got to earn your way into the field.
Yeah, and I respect that. And look, I think a lot of people feel like, Graham's kind of always a little bit aggressive towards, towards Alonso or whatever. Alonso is one of my heroes growing up. Watching him in Formula One, I had more respect for that guy than anybody. And I think it'd been great for the sport to see him come in here.
Yeah.
But he has for sure seen the highs racing for Andretti, coming into the best car, and then the lows of coming in and trying to fight your way into this whole deal. I've been in a similar position. Yeah, I haven't gone, for maybe that big of a swing, but, from a team when I drove for Ganassi that it was just like a shoe-in that we were going to be up front and have a chance to win. To the last couple of years, we can face it. We've had tough times. This year, we rebounded pretty well. He's seen both sides of it. I respect him tremendously. I hope he comes back and battles his way in. He is undoubtedly a talent that very few have ever existed in this world. And he for sure hung it out there. But what you learn is that Indy, hanging it out doesn't work. You've got to have the car, the man and the machine have got to be in sync.
You guys are raving about just the Kaiser and just the job he got done, and then the team in general just being such a small team, and just seeing what took place here today at the Speedway. I mean, as you mentioned, you could just hear the roar because people knew, like you mentioned, you had David versus Goliath here. And Graham, put in perspective for us, though, just for someone like him who did crash earlier in the week, but this team to be able to put things together and qualify and get in the field.
It's tremendous. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I think, I saw the whole team after. I just gave them a big thumbs up and told them congrats. Saw Ricardo Juncos. I mean, this guy's put his life on the line, I think, you know, to get this team started. He's worked his way up from Star Mazda, you know, to have an Indy Lights team, and now obviously the IndyCar team and sports cars. And you know, Kyle Kaiser's been a big part of that growth as well. And but for Ricardo to get his group motivated like that, to put it all together, that can't be understated. That's a huge, huge feat.
All right, we're going to take a time out here, having a good time with our guy here, Graham Rahal. Glad you're joining us, everybody.